Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm your Riz.
And you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. You know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Ham.
That's right.
Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm your Riz.
And you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. You know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Ham.
That's right.
Member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com. This show is brought to you by Slice on Broadway, supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. Production services by Sidekick Media Services. And listeners like you, supporting us at patreon.com/AwesomeCast. Time to get geeky, get awesome. It is the AwesomeCast. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on all the social medias. Yes, still all the social medias. And at Sorgatron Media here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is a Friday afternoon. I finished some of my calls here while I was in town for a whole 2 days. Obviously, we didn't have a show on Tuesday. We are not going to have one next week because of travels and things like that. Yes, Disney was amazing, and Missy loved it for her birthday. But maybe we'll talk about that some other time. Obviously, it has been an interesting week, and with all the kind of discussions and conversations I've been seeing on social media, or even in person here, as we were doing some work on Thursday night for our training nights out in New Kensington. I thought it was appropriate to do a little bit of a check-in with everybody on a few things that will hopefully help people and their mind state right now. If you are I guess I will say, emotionally impacted by the results of this week and the happenings here in the U.S. So I just wanted to kind of do a touch base and say, hi, how you doing? I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And you know what? We're still going to be here, and we're going to have conversations, and it is what it is. Here we go. But you can do some things, I hope, that will help people navigate things better, share this, kind of deal with the wave of, we know the kind of stuff that's happening on social media. We've been through a version of this before, and it's going to get really interesting as we go through the next few, years of things. So I want to, some of this is going to be a lot of review, but also this is going to be addressing a few things that have come up over the last few days. I want to address three major things that, again, we discuss a lot on this show, and just want to reiterate them for anybody new or reminders. I had to be reminded of some of these this week as a lot of these conversations were happening, and there was a really good rundown of some of these that I was reminded or shown new ones through other shows. So we're going to talk about news sources. We're going to talk about being on social media and how you're going to take care of your mindset on social media. I am really big on mindful social media. The ones that people think are absolute cesspools. I actually feel that I have a pretty good feed for what I'm doing, at least on some of them. So I want to talk about a little bit of that. And also new platforms. I've seen people have asked me about how do I get on, X platform, what should I be doing here? I'm leaving one. And if you feel compelled, and I'm not saying you need to be on every platform, but if you don't feel comfortable to be on a platform or don't want to support somebody, absolutely. You do not have to be anywhere in social media. You can feel that I feel that I should be on them because of what I do and the audiences I do want to reach. And personally, I hope to be a positive influence even in the muck. And I think that is, to me, I feel like that's an important thing, to be a positive a voice, reasonable voice in the unreasonable. So that's why I still subscribe to have all the apps on my phone, if I think it's useful and have some conversation. And I it's there. First, let's get into that first part I was talking about. Let's talk about kind of the sources and how we're kind of vetting things. And I know there's not going to be a lot of people in the chat room since we're a Friday afternoon. I didn't even announce this thing. This is just a German idea I had this morning, to be quite honest. First of all, let's talk about those sources. We talk about we're heading in AI, and I want to remind people of something actually Katie brought up on the show a couple of weeks ago, and there was this one called TrueMedia.org that you can go and sign up for. So it is a deep fake detector. You can drop links in there from TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, True Social. I didn't even notice that last one there. I have found it actually difficult because I am spending more time on things like Threads and Blue Sky, and there's not anything in there for that to be an issue there. But this is, they do have algorithms and things to help you out. Like there's things like this, a picture of the two presidential candidates together. Is this real or fake? Fans create a Swifties for Trump. Mexican president brandishes a menorah. Is this real? And it really kind of goes through stuff and like, hey, here are the big notable deep fakes you probably saw or something like that. So it's a really good service for that. And they say it's nonprofit, nonpartisan, and free. So no biases here, at least on the surface and everything like that. And so you can kind of go through that. They do have donations and stuff, and you can sign up for the account and really get into their tools and be able to load some more stuff in through that. Upload media, social posts. So I guess you can upload media if you take a screen cap or something on your phone and send it to something like this. So again, that's truemedia.org. And again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Fake images of here. This applies to me. I was actually looking at this. Fake images of Hurricane Milton flooding Disney World from a Russian account. So this is something that, it's not just an election thing. This is something that's going to continue to happen for a lot of different reasons. And it's going to be really important to, unfortunately, more so than ever, second guess what you're seeing on your social media feeds. Because a lot of reasons, a lot of people can be motivated to do scams, for instance, any other kind of thing. What are the, it'll be really interesting to kind of see what social media does in the next couple of years, if they even bother to do anything about fakes and deep fakes on accounts and stuff. We know there's been some state movements that have not gone anywhere because they've been a little, legislating technology and fast-moving technology is always a frustrating thing, it seems. So the other side is, it is also, and I find myself in these traps, and I think a lot of us do from time to time, but, making sure we're not looking, confirmation bias, make sure we're not in the echo chamber. That's the word I'm looking for. And sites that, and sometimes for your own mindfulness, you kind of roll with it, of course, but I think it's really important to kind of look at that. I have been, when something big is going on, I would go to Fox News and CNN and see, okay, what's the vibe? And again, it's a vibe check. Rather than just like the news, and try to keep pretty steady with things, really prune the sources that are on my news app on Apple. But even that, honestly, I think I've rolled out most politics and world news, and it just give me video game and technology news and comic books. So, and that's a big mindfulness, and we'll get to that in a moment. But in the meantime, I think some of these other sites are very, very good. One that I've known of for a while is a site called allsides.com. It's very good because it gives you, what is a center publication doing, what is one on the right, one is one on the left saying, so you can really see, again, quote unquote, all sides of what's going on here. So it helps you kind of navigate what's going on there. And again, I really think you really need to second guess anything from these, any of these sources on one side or another, because reality is probably somewhere in the middle, as they say. So if you're watching one or the other to celebrate or doom and gloom over things, it may not be as good or as bad as it sounds, because of the slant that you usually get on something like this. So, it's very good about, like, there's let me get something that's a little more interesting here. Unfortunately, everybody is about exactly what you think it would be about. Okay, I'll just go with it. How does the presidential win going to affect the U.S. economy? From the left, it says, get ready for inflation, interest rates to rise again. From the center, they're saying Wall Street is salivating over a new Trump boom, which is accurate, because everybody's really, obviously you're seeing that in the stock market and things, and that article is reflecting that. And on the right side, Trump's tariffs would drive up consumer price, National Retail Federation, which that's actually surprising from the right side. Thought they'd be celebrating that, right? Gives you an idea of what's going on there. And it's not just politics. I mean, it's going to be a lot of politics, but it is going to be a lot of stuff. Like, there's some Israeli soccer fans were attacked in the Netherlands. This is one story that's popped up on here, things of that nature. So I definitely recommend that. There is an app for your phone, Google and Apple stores, if you want that directly, as well. And they are asking, I don't think there's a paid subscription, but there's an investment tab on that if you were interested in that. So you can explore that. I guess it's kind of more of a not PBS model, but something like that. Another one, I have not dived into this a lot, but it was another option for this. And this does, I believe, turn into a kind of a paid subscription. This was one that was mentioned on, what was I listening to? This Week in Google. I know it was a really good source. And also, I will recommend that episode this week. They have they call it the Aftermath for the elections. They have a good discussion about what the new perceived administration is going to mean for technology. There's a lot of things I don't talk about online when it comes to things like this until it's something about technology, because that is something that I follow. Obviously, doing this show every week and things like that. So that's one where I will speak up on certain things to say, hey, this is bullshit. This is this or this. And I think Twig does a very good job of having those discussions and informing and things like that. So, but anyways, and I might have to go here because I think I'm getting a call from another job right now. So, live on the air. take a moment there, and we'll kind of roll through this. Grounded.news is one that they said on the other thing. So obviously, kind of a similar thing. My understanding of this and again, I'm starting to poke through this in the last kind of 24 hours. Kind of a very similar thing. It weights how much people are talking about on one way or another. Here's something Jack Smith asked the judge to suspend deadlines in Trump January 6th state case. You can see. You can see 33% left are talking about this, center's 34%, right 33%. So it gives you kind of an idea of where the discussions are happening and, and everything like that. Just a real quick thing. But anyway, so that's the idea there. So it does have a subscription kind of situation and everything like that. So that's kind of a good process there. Again, it also does have it does have a app kind of situation here. Yep, I'm still multitasking and everything. So and I like that because you're not dealing with the cookie pop-ups that seem to still come up no matter how many times you say okay, or any kind of ad-based things that get kind of funky when you're on the mobile like that, right? So go check that out, and you can hopefully find some good sources with that. All right, for the live right now, I'm going to take one moment here and take a quick break. We're going to fix this in editing later, but apparently I do have a slight emergency I need to address at a production in Boston. So if you're with me live, take one moment and I'll be right back.
Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm your Riz.
And, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. You know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Ham.
That's right.
Now, with the new stuff out of the way, let's talk about social media for a moment. I want to remind people, if you're on a platform and don't want to necessarily roll out of things, and again, I do understand, I speak from a certain point of privilege here myself, but I feel like at a certain point, depending on what you're doing on social media, this would apply. Prune, okay? If you're a certain level of public figure, obviously, and getting some attention for the things you're saying on there, there's only so much is going to do. Our friends that are pro wrestlers or things like that are going to have everybody that's going to be looking at them, for instance, right? But I think if you're just a general user, day-to-day social media user, reader, doom scroller, if you get a comment on something, see a comment on something that you find offensive, mute, block, unfriend. Use those. You do not have to receive all of that. One big thing that I did, I guess 8 years ago now, I was tired of seeing a certain person's name in my feed in general. So on what used to be Twitter, you can go in and actually mute terms. If you don't want to hear anybody talking about certain people that you find absolutely maddening, or topics you find absolutely maddening, maybe certain political topics and terms, you can go into your settings on Twitter, and other services should have something similar to this. I would even put in there certain slurs and things like that you don't want to see in the feed. So if people are talking like that, it will be absolutely blocked out of your feed. I remember when, what was that, probably about 2020, when everybody was overly, like, I feel like that's when we got a flashpoint on social media, right? And somebody will, somebody kind of called out and saying, well, you don't want to talk about this or something. It's like, no, I want to share good information. I want to help people out that are open to receive this. You obviously are not. You are just here to yell, and there's no conversation to be had. We talk about a lot of this. We will be talking about a lot of this on our Fishing Without Bait podcast. A lot of things about fear and the argument party. It does feel like something like social media is nothing but an argument party these days, I'm sure. But it does not have to be, I saw somebody's response to something on Facebook. It's like, this is somebody that I do not want them in my feed, accepting somebody's opinion doesn't mean that you need to be hit over the head with it every day. Is my feeling. Unless there's a very specific reason where you do want to know, like, at a certain point you need to know what people are talking about, and actually talking about on an open platform, and you can do that, but that's not good for you every day. Looking at these news items every day, we talk about these apps. Please window that. Don't put them on your front page. I've been putting social media things in folders. That takes an extra thing because just default, I would open something up or my email or something. Social engineer yourself on your phone. Put that stuff on all these links. I'm putting on. I want them to be surfaced so that I'm looking at them instead of the bad junk food of news that may be out there. I'm putting all the links on the second page. On the, like, I need to dig and think about it. It's like, I want to see what's going on. I think I'm going to put Apple News on the second page. Actually, no, probably not, because I don't have anything political in there. It's all video games and stuff, right? Stuff for this show for the most part is what I have kind of scheduled in there. But obviously that creeps in with the technology news, especially. So there's a little bit of cross there, and I think there will be more and more, considering who's looks like they're going to become more and more involved in the political spectrum. So there's that. So mute, prune. Obviously, we can definitely be very upset at the new changes to mute and block. Or I'm sorry, block. I think is the biggest thing over on Twitter and everything like that. So, obviously, if that is a no-go for you and you feel like you were, can be easily victimized by that, please move on. If the platform is not taking care of you, and that is definitely, I would say, I think unequivocally, X is not a platform that takes care of you. It's providing, it's looking for the argument, because social media wins when you guys are arguing and quote unquote engaging. So that is something, again, we are working in somebody else's purview in how they want to do a community, right? And that's their right. That's First Amendment is how they do the community, right? I won't get into that. That's a conversation for another day. So let's talk about things. Maybe you don't want to be on there anymore. Maybe you do find it important. You don't want to support somebody, for one reason or another, that own the platforms, or they've upset you for one reason or another. And that is okay. That is absolutely okay. What people are already asking me about, obviously, thankfully, if you don't like Twitter, whatever the hell it's called these days, you do have an option. You have several options, actually, for community in a very similar vein. I honestly kind of think of them as Twitter clones. You know what I mean? Because they've kind of taken that what you'll call the microblogging idea, which is what Twitter kind of started as under text and things like that, and moved it on. Again, I will start with the if you don't mind Facebook and Instagram, you may already have a Threads account and don't know it. It honestly, when we talk about these, it is the easiest onboarding of them. It is very simple. Certain features that you're going to see in Twitter, which has been developed over more than a decade, versus the other platforms that I'm going to talk about are just a couple of years old, honestly. Within, I think most of them within the last 5, if not much shorter. But Threads obviously popped up, made the waves. Are we 2 years into the Threads experiment? And also, it's Threads.net. You're probably already getting bugged by this if you're already on a Meta platform. And again, it is super simple, really not kind of great on the browser, to be quite honest here. I can't schedule anything on this. That's why if you follow us on AwesomeCast, like you'll get kind of I scheduled out the next week since I'm going away out of town, and I still want to put little video clips out, and you just gotta get a dump of them sometimes because that's me working through and trying to figure it out, And we're trying to figure out how to work with these new platforms too as they develop and start adding features. Again, very simplistic, kind of thing. We'll get to this beta that's popping up here with this on the video, but you got your GIFs, you got your video and imagery, and it works very well. And again, it kind of takes you back to like this feels a little bit more like Twitter of a decade ago when it was a little more simple. So I definitely appreciate this one for what it is. I feel like the bulk of people, because it's easy onboarding. Again, you sign in with your Facebook, Instagram account, and you are the same identity. You don't have to go fill out a new profile. It will sort of automatically add everybody you already follow from the other platforms. So, it's like, oh, so and so follow me. No, they already follow you over here. They're not seeking you out, potentially, kind of thing. I found it as, I think it's the best true alternative, unfortunately, because it's Meta who has their own baggage, we'll say. So take that into account, please, when you're rolling with that. And let me just double check if anybody's in. Hi, mom's watching right now, by the way. So, so homework work, I don't know. But yeah, so feel free to do that. Like, exercise your right. You have a right to protest. A protest deletion of your account or anything like that. Absolutely, you have a right to do that. The other one, this is actually from what was it, Jack Dorsey, I think is his name. That one of the founders, or at least owners, or big influence over the decade of Twitter, went and did one called Blue Sky. Now, Threads is generally, it's we're going to talk about federated versus centralized. Twitter is centralized. One server, more or less, one set of own servers, one idea, whatever Twitter wants to do, you don't have a say with this. And also, I will back up a second. If you're on any of those platforms that are serving ads, you are the product. If you're not paying for anything, you are the product. And obviously, Twitter's changed that a little bit, and it's kind of annoying about it, honestly. And we do pay for that service just for one of our accounts where we are trying to reach an audience that is on there. And that's the decision we have to make as a business. I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about paying $8 a month in order to get stats to figure out if the stuff we're putting out is working, and things like that. And those added things don't really add up for us, right? At least in my experience so far, have not done a full analytics check. That's somebody else's department. But I'm interested to see how that turns out. But anyways, Blue Sky, I feel like is probably the easier on board of something that is truly independent. It is I do believe it is a nonprofit. You will not see ads on it. I think it was just kind of supported. It is, I think, is eventually supposed to be, if I'm recalling. Ooh, then it's really big on the cat pics. Thank you, Zeggy Heim. For this. So, but I'm starting to see, and this is a big thing. Reason I always say, I'm waiting for wrestling Twitter to move over to these platforms, so I don't have to be on Twitter necessarily. That's the bellwether that I have, because wrestling fans are a generalized audience of different walks of life, right? And we are waiting for the more common person to find these other platforms. And as I'm seeing wrestlers go over to these platforms, Ziggy Heim, for instance, people on this network, in the fans and things like that, starting to move over there, and you were seeing, especially this week, I have deleted my Twitter. Hey, I'm not using Twitter. I'm over here on this platform. Which happens every time I think Twitter puts out a new announcement for a feature change, which people are not happy with, for one reason or another. You will see these waves. More of your friends will come. If they're of a certain, more people are getting angry with that those platforms and deciding I want to go somewhere else, and migrating, So again, it should be a really simple sign up. I think they've gotten to a point in the last several months where there's an easy feature kind of situation. I look for things like, and can I easily move between the accounts, because we have the podcasting accounts and everything, and we do have that, and that makes it so much easier. Whatever makes it easier for me to not decide not to take the trouble to post to this, because I am somebody who wants to be on multiple platforms for the benefits of each platform and those audiences, because we're trying to get this conversation out to everybody, right? So I think that's really important there. So I would try Blue Sky for sure. Again, I think it's going to be federated. I can't remember what the thing is right off the top of my head, but I think it is your main true Twitter-esque, from the people with the original philosophies of Twitter. Again, I talk about features. It's been a slow-moving process with this one. They don't do video yet. That's why you're not going to see these things. If you want to get rid from our video clips, go to Blue Sky, for instance. So that's one thing there to look out for. The most complicated of them all is Mastodon. And we talk about federated. What does federation mean when it comes to these platforms? Federation is going to be, again, we talked about the single server point of contact, let's say, with, say, a Facebook or a Twitter, right? The idea is you can go join a server, right? When I signed up, I actually signed up for Twit This Week in Tech, had one, and that's where my main account actually is, because it's on a already populated server of tech-minded people and things like that. So that was like an easy way to onboard. I'm a fan of, I'm part of their audience and everything, and have been since before I started podcasting. So that's a really nice thing with that. When you sign up for a server, you have to understand, like, okay, so you have the multiple servers, and the multiple servers can talk to each other. But now, like, Mastodon.social is a main one. I believe the foundation themselves, again, this is a nonprofit organization, was my understanding. If you go to Mastodon.social, you can go and sign up. And that's cool because, that is the main source. That server is probably not going to go away. And you have access to the biggest audience right off the bat. You could create a server, think like Discord or something, where you can create your own rooms or a Slack or something. But imagine if those Discords and Slacks could talk to each other. Like, people on each of those could talk to each other, but in a Twitter type of format. You can kind of, we actually have our own server. I have a small one. It's not really kind of open for everybody to go on, but I do invite my co-hosts on the podcast and everything to use it. We have sorgatronmedia.social, and that's where, like, the Mayhem Show, AwesomeCast, accounts are sitting. So we're, just as a foothold into Mastodon when it starts, going, when everybody starts showing up and our fan base starts showing up, you want to, make that, make that foray, get your username and things like that. So that's there. Now, as somebody on my server, and Twit certainly does this, they're like, they always say on their podcast, I want to make sure, people can't see the Nazi server, because there's a Nazi monster. There's going to be white supremacy mastodons or whatever topic, good, bad, evil, indifferent. Okay. And I can go into my things and say, hey, we're not going to put these servers out there, and if somebody finds my server objectionable for the content we do here, they can block me as well, and then block everybody on that server, because people of a like-minded thing have collected on this server, ideally. And you are, you're adjusting that, you're that audience base. So again, join something you trust, but also, like, I have to pay for that server every month. We pay, I think, something like $10 a month for that server for this experiment that we're doing, because I want to own it. I want to have control over it, and I want to understand that process, and that's what I want to do. And so you could go sign up for a server and have u.social or, or something like that, or, your club, your podcast, your Twitch channel can have a Mastodon server, and then you can invite your audience in and everything like that, right? But you have to manage it at that point too. The servers make it easy. You don't have to sit there and figure out how a server works, but you do have a lot of preferences in community management. That's the term I was looking for before. That you're going to have to go through and figure out and make sure you're happy with it and your fan base is happy with it too. And also you have to have a fan base that you need to invite in to that as well. I find it, so I mentioned there was like a kind of a beta thing that was on the screen earlier for Threads. Threads did open things up that to be part of the federated universe, Fediverse, I think they call it. It's a very weird thing because like you can go on one of these Mastodon servers, you can find, and the search is weird, kind of going cross server. That's one thing I'm having a little bit of trouble with still. But I have strangely, if you follow my accounts, it's interesting because I will post something, but also share the same post from the Threads version. Part of my kind of experimentation to see how things work. So that conversation go happen on Mastodon. The issue is, if you're on Threads, you just get a notification that says somebody on Threads shared this. You don't know who it is. You don't know what they said. You can't get into the conversation. I don't believe comments pop up on there either. You just said, hey, something happened over here. And they don't have that coming through. Now, ideally, eventually they will include that and you will be able to hopefully more seamlessly interact with somebody over there. But the nice part about Threads is if you're on Threads and you can check that box, whatever you're doing on Threads is already there. Hypothetically, based on what they're saying, you could just be on Threads and also be on Mastodon Fediverse as well as one point of contact. That is not a full reality because of your contact, your access and everything like that. But it is a nice idea and they are moving forward with that. Again, I think Blue Sky is going to do something similar in the future as well. But they are, again, very slow moving on these features and implementations because, again, I think they're a nonprofit, maybe even a volunteer basis for all I know. I forget what the company structures are because I don't need to know it. And it hasn't been a huge part of the news and conversation recently, at least. So there's some options there. Hopefully this is useful. Hopefully it helps you with your mindfulness. Hopefully it helps you navigate this and still be part of the conversation. And I encourage everybody, no matter where you're at, where you're lined up with things, to be a positive influence on these communities. I think that is the strongest thing you can be right now with the temperature of things. And, I really hope everybody, one, take care of each other, look out for each other, drink some water. Because I know I've been heavy with the coffee the last couple of days. Just trying to keep going and everything. So, you lose yourself a little bit, especially when things are a bit of a whirlwind, if you will. So we will be back again, I believe, with the 19th. We will be back. And, hey, we might have somebody in the studio helping us out a little bit. So I had a really great call. Had a great couple of calls, actually, today with some locals and some opportunities coming up. I haven't talked about this much publicly, but I'm actually considering a readjustment of this show. And since we have a week off for pondering and things like that, tell me, if you're listening on the social, on the DMs, on the Patreon, tell me what you like, don't like, wish the show was more of or less of. In the conversations, we're trying to do we stay more tech? Do we go more geeky? Do we more tips? Do we do more old school things, coming up and things like that? Obviously the world has changed and the technology space has changed and, we're trying to figure out how we change with it as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. I hope you appreciate, this kind of impromptu thing. I hope it's been helpful for all of you out there. And we'll see you guys next time, hopefully with a full roster, Katie and everybody back in the, back on the line here for the conversation. So I hope you appreciate my nearly 30 minutes of ranting with you guys. So that's been fun too, to see if I can do that. Thank you so much. You have been our awesome take two, which I won't edit. You have been our awesome audience. Have an awesome week. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatron.com.